A non-resident bank account in Singapore might be one of the most sought-after banking options available today. And I'm about to explain how you can find banks that will accept you, how you can avoid common non-resident banking challenges, and a few account opening tips that you can use to get started. But before we jump in, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get alerted every time we post new non-resident banking opportunities. Before we get started, we have a free non-resident banking starter guide designed to help non-resident and foreigners open bank accounts all around the world in places like Singapore. So don't forget to download your copy using the link in the description below. Now, everyone on the internet seems to believe that non-resident banking in Singapore is getting more difficult or even impossible. Well, that's not how we see it. Today, according to the Monetary Authority of Singapore, Singaporean banks hold over $36 billion in non-resident deposits. That's the second highest amount ever recorded for non-resident deposits in the country. So, if anyone tells you that opening an account here as a non-resident is impossible, they don't know what they're talking about. Now, if you're not a millionaire or don't want to make a six-figure deposit, say at least $100,000 US, opening here is going to be tough. But with the right information and strategies, it's still possible to open a bank account at a Singaporean bank. If you haven't already looked into Singapore for banking, you might be wondering why open bank accounts here in the first place. Well, in addition to possibly being a great fit for your internationalization strategy, non-resident accounts can also help you protect your money. And we're not just talking about asset protection. Over the past year, Brexit, China-US trade talks, and social unrest in Hong Kong have all helped to attract non-resident money in Singapore. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. In times of unrest and uncertainty, the wealthy don't sit idly. They take action when they see the warning signs. And that includes opening bank accounts in safe, financially stable jurisdictions to secure their wealth abroad. For many, that means opening accounts and relocating their nest eggs to high-quality banks in super safe banking hubs like Singapore. So it's no surprise that money flocks to Singapore and other safe haven countries in times of trouble, geopolitical turmoil, and uncertainty. So why is Singapore so damn good at banking? Well, today, Singapore is the pinnacle of banking stability. The banks here are financially sound, well capitalized, and have world-class service. If you can get in, Singapore is the place to be. The reason that Singapore is such a solid banking hub stems from the fact that the country is fiscally responsible, strong rule of law, and banking regulators don't mess around. In fact, when BCCI Bank went down in the early 90s, Singapore was one of the few countries that wasn't impacted. And that's because they rejected their application for a banking license repeatedly. On its own, that wouldn't be so special. But the fact that BCCI had operations in the UK, US, Luxembourg, and 43 other countries, and Singapore still refused to give them a banking license because they thought the bank was too new and didn't have strong enough capitalization, really says something. But Singapore isn't just a tough place to get a banking license. It can also be a tough place to open a bank account, and it makes sense. Singaporean banks already have their choice of wealthy, cash-rich clients. On top of that, 25% of the country's population are millionaires. And the country's status as a global financial hub means that multinationals and the world's ultra-rich already flock there. In other words, Singaporean banks have little need or desire to open accounts for non-residents who are low on cash and unprofitable for the bank. With this in mind, here are the top reasons why people struggle to open accounts. If you want an account with a Singapore bank, you need to be an attractive, profitable customer. Remember, Singapore isn't some Eastern European nation. Banks here aren't looking to bolster up their balance sheets with small, non-resident accounts. Singaporean residents are wealthy, and so is the surrounding region, so they don't need or want to accept every non-resident with $8,000 that knocks on their door. Second, standardized KYC. Something else that differentiates Singapore from many other banking hubs is that compliance and KYC are standardized. In almost all instances, you'll find that banks here have a streamlined onboarding process for new clients. For example, if you get rejected at one branch, you'll most likely be denied at the other branches for that bank. Because many compliance systems are integrated in Singapore much more than, say, Georgia or Panama. So it's sometimes more difficult to reapply at another branch if you've already been formally rejected at that bank at a different location. Next, where you apply is very important. Singapore is a tiny city-state about the size of Rhode Island. It only takes 1 hour to drive across the entire country. But that doesn't mean you'll have an easy time picking which branch to apply to. Choose the wrong location and you'll be denied and ruin your chances of opening at that bank forever. Certain branches might cater to certain industries, prefer certain client types, require particular minimums, or have varying degrees of openness towards non-residents. Knowing your bank and your branch's preferences and sensitivities beforehand is key, especially if you're not planning to make an initial six-figure deposit. Next up is account opening requirements. While there is a standardized process for account applications, you should still check with each bank to make sure that you have the correct and most up-to-date documentation. Additionally, double check whether the bank has any special requirements for authentication or translation of the documents from your home country or the country where your business is incorporated. Lastly, actually getting to Singapore can be a challenge. Depending on where you are in the world, Singapore can be a long and expensive trip to take, especially if you are coming from Europe or the Americas. And while the banks in Singapore are great, it might be more cost effective to consider some of the other top banking jurisdictions closer to home. So, you're probably wondering how to get started opening accounts. Well, our team has spent hundreds of hours meeting with banks, opening accounts, and collecting first-hand experiences in Singapore. We did this because Singapore is one of the best banking jurisdictions in the world. Frankly, if Singapore is not on your radar, it should be. But banking in Singapore isn't easy. And given how great of a destination Singapore is for banking, it should be no surprise how difficult it can be to find and get accepted by the right bank. This is because banks in Singapore can afford to pick and choose who they accept. They run a tight operation and only want the best clients. In other words, unless you know which banks, branches, and bankers to speak with, you could very quickly find yourself wasting a lot of time and money trying to open an account. Using our team's expertise and deep knowledge of Singapore banking, we've decided to fix that problem. And that's why we've put together the most comprehensive Singapore banking guide available anywhere. Here's what you'll receive: detailed profiles for the best Singapore banking options, direct contact information for English-speaking account managers, specific account opening requirements to get your account open fast, clear explanation of the challenges you will face and how to address them, what you need to know before contacting the bankers, strategies that will allow you to open an account in Singapore as a non-resident, special account opening procedures and preferences for each bank and client type, and a whole lot more. To immediately access this report, all you need to do is join our flagship service, GlobalBanks Insider. With GlobalBanks Insider, you'll get instant access into our entire archive of banking intelligence reports, including our Singapore non-resident banking report. And you will also get access to the GlobalBanks database, home to more than 250 banks from 50 plus countries, including detailed bank profiles, client preferences, and a lot more. Finally, you'll also get real-time analyst support from our team of experts, ready to answer your most pressing banking questions and to make suggestions on which banks in Singapore and elsewhere will best meet your objectives. To get started, just click the link in the description below to learn more about GlobalBanks Insider. And before signing off, don't forget to hit subscribe so you get alerted every time we share new banking opportunities. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.